Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, The Sea Life 6. My name is Alicia, and if you're new here, please remember to hit that subscribe and notification button. Make sure it turns blue so you can be notified every time a new video comes out. So today's topic is going to be about the top 5 myths that even I had before I started homeschooling. Let's jump right into it. So the very first myth that I'm going to talk about is socialization. Homeschool kids don't socialize. Homeschool kids are awkward. Homeschool kids are going to grow up and not know how to function in the real world. Totally wrong. I was 100% convinced this. When I, growing up, ever heard about a homeschooler, it was always like, oh, that kid's weird, he's homeschooled. But honestly, since having to be thrust into this from having my child that had to be homeschooled, I realized that I was completely wrong with judging homeschool families. There are so many ways, you guys, to homeschool children and to socialize them correctly at the same time. For myself and the community that I live in, there is a lot of actual sports that go on during the day to keep kids like entertained for one and socialize for two. They had our local YMCA had a homeschooling swim team. They had once a week they came together and they did a swim school and they learned how to swim and they learned how to be, you know, a competitive swimmer. There was also a co-op, which if you don't know what that is, a cooperative learning group, which is a homeschooling community that comes together in your local area and they do things together once to twice a week depending on how many kids are involved. So the one that I was in was twice a week that we would do this, and it was just phenomenal. The kids did theater, they did Spanish class, they did some math stuff together, and it was just a really great way to get kids to come together and socialize. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, if you're going to have co-ops, then why don't you just go to school? Co-ops are not a main curriculum. My children still learn 100% from home. We go out and do things in a community with other homeschooling children to give that socialization aspect of it, but it's not their main curriculum, so not like school still. And then there's still after school things. As a Navy family, we utilize the Kids Youth Center all the time. My kids go to summer camp there, they do their after school activities there. My one son, before the whole COVID thing happened, was in a robotics class on Wednesdays. Was it on Wednesdays? What day was it? I think it was on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 was the robotics club class, and then from 7 to 8 he went to the freestyle preteen and teen area that they had on Wednesday nights. So he was able to go and hang out and be with other kids. We also are a Christian family and we have a church that we go to. So on Sundays, or even some days twice a week depending on what I was doing, we were going to church and being around other families that are the same mindset as us based on our faith. Now, I know that there are so many things that have been on TV about kids that have been homeschooled and horrific, tragic things have happened to them. I want to point out that that is not how normal homeschool families are. These kids have been in horrible situations. Their parents or guardians were not good people and they did things to them which were horrific. Again, this is not how normal homeschool families are. Most homeschool families are extremely active in their community and their kids are involved in anything and everything they can be to get them socialized. Just like when you see, you know, schools, and there's so many school shootings that have been happening, that doesn't say that that's how school is. It's just things that are happening in schools. You know, when they have abuse cases from public schools that come out, things that are happening in that particular school are not status quo for everything. So I really want to point out that homeschoolers, these kids are not being mistreated unless it's one of those extremes that you're seeing on the TV. It's not showing the masses of us. So homeschooling is amazing for your children. You can definitely go on Facebook, and with social media platforms, you can pretty much find anything now. The co-ops in your area, the school activities in your area that allow children who are homeschooled to be involved. And I know a lot of school districts even allow kids to play on those teams if they're homeschooled, if they meet certain criteria. So really look into that into your own community. Number 2 is finances. So my husband and I made the decision about 5 years ago now, crazy to think about that, for me to get out of the Navy and to become a stay-at-home mom. One of the main reasons was because having to give custody over from our oldest son to my parents when we both had to leave and go do different things for our careers at one point, and that really just struck home with us. I'm just not one of those women. I thought when I joined the Navy, I was going to be a Master Chief in the Navy. That was my goal. And then I had my son, and for me, my goals changed. I didn't want to be away from my children like that. There are plenty of women who are in the Navy, and they are doing some great things. My best friend, who's a chief in the Navy, she is amazing. She's kicking butt, and I push her and encourage her in her career because she's amazing at it. But unfortunately for myself, I didn't see that for myself after having children. So I decided to become a stay-at-home mom, and this is where my journey has led me. And from just becoming a stay-at-home mom to now a homeschooling mom, and things kind of fall into place. But we had to go from a 2-family income to a 1-family income, and that was the scariest transition of, I think, both my husband and I lives, was going from having 2 dependable paychecks to just 1 paycheck. And having to realize that there was going to be things that we had to give up. We weren't going to be able to spend money the way that we were used to spending money, or do things the way that we were used to doing them, because we were going to 1 income. So I know that's a lot of people's fears. You really have to sit down with your own family, look at your finances, and say, okay, if we cut down our income, are we going to be able to still live? We might not be able to do everything we want, but will we still be able to live comfortably and not be going into crazy amounts of debt? Will we still be able to provide our children with clothing, with food, with shelter, and not, take a step back and go and get into a financially hard situation? So that's really something you want to do. For our family, that was something that we were able to do, only because by the time I got out of the Navy, with how much childcare was for paying for 3 kids in daycare, I was pretty much paying my entire military paycheck for childcare. And that's another reason why we decided to get out, was because we knew we wanted to have a larger family, and we were letting someone else raise our children because we had long days. There were sometimes 10-12-hour days, and my kids were in daycare, and it's just not something that we particularly wanted. We wanted to have one person that stayed in. My husband wound up being the person that stayed in, and we kind of just adjusted our life from there. Now granted, again, we've given up a lot. Like, we used to go on Disney cruises. We went on 3 or 4 Disney cruises before I wound up getting out. We haven't really been able to do that. We were able to take vacations before, to where now we really have to plan and adjust for those things, to where before we didn't really have to do as much planning. So there is going to be a period where you need to sit down, you need to look over your finances. Are there things that you're going to be able to give up as a family? Are there things that you're not able to give up as a family in order to do your homeschooling journey? I know there's actually parents who are still 2-income families, but they have one parent that works during the day and one parent that works during the night, and they switch. So that might be something that you could look into doing if you're not willing to give up that 2-income family lifestyle. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, myth number 3, is I'm not a teacher. Okay, so I feel this deep in my soul. I tried to fight to keep my son in school because I did not think I was capable of teaching. I am dyslexic. If you're on my Facebook or Instagram page, I think I post at least twice a year. Hey, if you ever read something that kind of sounds like a little wonky, I probably just didn't catch it because of my dyslexia. It's something that I've lived with and I've had to learn how to deal with my entire life. So I really thought that I was not going to be able to homeschool my children because I had a disability myself. I reached out to a friend who was a fellow homeschooling mama, and I must have been talking to her off and on about a year for this, when she finally was like, Alicia, what is holding you back? You keep asking me questions, girl, just do it. And I finally told her, I'm scared of screwing up my kids. I'm scared of the fact, what if I pull him out of school and I can't teach him how to read, or I pull him out of school and because of my own dyslexia stuff, like I'm teaching him something wrong. And she said, you were able to push past your own disabilities and you had a great life. You had a career. I have a Navy career, and I was doing extremely well in my career before I got out. She's like, you can do it. Your fear is what's holding you back. She's like, let God take control and he's going to show you the way. And when it got to the point where we did not have a choice, we had to take our son out because we were concerned for his physical safety because of how upset he was getting at school. We decided, you know what, we have to do this. And obviously my husband can't stay at home and homeschool him because he's the one with the income. So I had to just kind of suck it up. And you know what, it's been the best journey, not only for my child, and I saw the progress and the year and a half now that he's been doing this just himself, and where he started at when we first pulled him out to where he is now, we were able to get him more services at home. We were on wait lists before. He needed a lot of in-home therapy for his autism and to manage some stuff, and unfortunately those therapies, the lists for them for after school were so long. By being able to bring him home and do homeschooling, we were able to get him his in-school therapy immediately when I changed the time frame. So there were a lot of things that happened that kind of just built and built on top of each other, and it's been an amazing journey to watch my oldest son do and how far he's come. You know, when we pulled him out, he was halfway through 2nd grade, but he could barely read on a kindergarten level, and that's even with me working with him after school. So I was able to prove to myself that yes, I can do this. You mama, or you daddy, whoever is the parent that's going to be doing this homeschooling journey, or maybe together, you can do this. There's going to be days that are frustrating, yes. There's going to be days where you want to pull your hair out, but you can do this. Which leads me into the 4th topic that I want to talk about, which is patience. And I've heard a lot of people say, I don't have the patience to homeschool. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the patience for that. Well, I thought that too. I don't have the patience to homeschool these kids. These kids get under my skin when they're home, y'all. They just want me to make me go out of my mind. I'm not going to have the patience for this. And I thought for the long time it was my child who was the problem. But actually, it's me that's the problem. I didn't have patience for my own child. That's something that I had to work on and grow on, and it did not happen overnight. You guys, there were so many times where I had to tell my son, you know what, we're taking a break because I need a break, not because he needed a break. I needed a mental break, and I had to walk away from him because I could feel my patience. It was snapped, I was breaking, and I needed to walk away. But it was something that I really found in myself, that I grew within myself for. So if you're sitting here saying that you don't have patience for this, I'm not trying to sit here to say you're a bad person. This is an opportunity for you to be able to grow personally and learn how to have more patience. It's not something that we're just given, right? You know, it's not something that we're just given. I definitely, when I was in the Navy, I was known as being the hothead one. If there was a problem, if there was something going on, sailors would come and get me because they knew that I would handle it, and I would handle it in a minute. And when things went down, I did not have the patience to deal with the BS of life. I said, nope, this is what we're doing. If you can't do it, then we're gonna figure something else out. To where when I came home, I really struggled when I first came home because children aren't like that. You really need to have a lot of patience. And when I first came home after getting out of the Navy, I thought I was a horrific mother. I thought that this was for me. I made the worst mistake of my life. I should have never stopped my career. I'm not built to be a stay-at-home mom. But as the time went on, I learned, okay, you know what? My kids are acting a certain way because I'm acting a certain way. So this might be a really great opportunity for you to grow yourself and learn how to become a more patient person. Number 5, the top thing that I want to talk about is that, oh, homeschoolers, they just have the perfect life. Nothing's ever wrong with them. Their children listen to them. My kids don't listen to me. They're never going to be able to homeschool. Oh, girl. Woo! Can I tell you, yeah, my kids, not perfect. Me, not perfect at all. There are times where I sit in the bathroom crying because I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a horrible mother. I get into my head myself. Homeschooling is not going to be the end-all catch-all. Gonna have perfect kids. My kids are going to listen to me. So if you're trying to homeschool because your kids are just gonna be able to listen to you and they're gonna be perfect like you see these other homeschool parents, I'm outside right now so you can obviously hear traffic going by. Please don't homeschool because of that. I promise you there are going to be days where you're going to rip your hair out. There are going to be days where your kids are going to lose their minds. They don't want to do this. There is no difference between a child homeschooling and being at a brick and mortar school with their frustration level. Kids get frustrated with school. They don't want to do school anymore. They zone out when they're at a brick and mortar school, a public school, a private school where they're actually physically going into a classroom. They're going to do the same thing with you at home. There's gonna be days where they're just not feeling it. They don't wanna do it. And you're gonna be banging your head against the wall because they don't wanna do it. And you're like, we gotta get schoolwork done. And it's going to be a fight. Then there's gonna be days where you are just downright tired and you don't feel like doing this anymore, and you need you're like, you know what, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this. That's okay. Homeschooling is not going to make perfection happen. Homeschooling is not going to give you like this cohesive family unit that everyone works together and everyone loves each other and no one's ever stressed out. I really want to point out that's pretty much the opposite. A lot of people are seeing this now with having to homeschool their kids, how frustrated kids get when they learn, and the things that teachers have to deal with, which can we give an amen? Can we praise teachers right now? Thank you all for you do. It opened my eyes homeschooling, the things that y'all have to deal with every single day. So bringing a child home to do school at home is not going to automatically change the behavior. It's going to give you the opportunity to really be able to get a firm grasp on how you want to mold your child into an adult. I wasn't able to discipline my son at school. Discipline meaning I wasn't able, when he did something wrong, to sit him down and talk to him and really get on his level to tell him what he did was wrong right when it happened. And because my son is very if you don't get him in the moment when something's happening, you trying to talk about it to him 6 hours later, he's not gonna know what the heck you're talking about. He's like, la 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 la. So being able to kind of sit down with him and tell him, hey bud, do you see what you did was wrong? Did you see how this can't happen? He's been able to really grow as an individual because I've been able to take the time to really teach him, to where I feel like being in a school setting, they don't have time to be a parent to these kids all day long, especially when there's 20 to 30 kids per class. They're doing the best they can. So for me, homeschooling has shown me that I'm able to better parent my children and give them a better future almost, because I'm like, hey, cut that out, we need to talk, that's not right. But my children are never going to be perfect. Homeschooling will never make them perfect. No person will ever be perfect. So if you're thinking that you're going to homeschool because you want to bring down the hammer and make your child into a perfect person, I really advise against that. I don't think you're going to have a great outcome with that. So those are the 5 top homeschooling myths that I have kind of brainstormed and come together with. If you can think of any more myths, please leave a comment down below and we'll discuss what your myth is about homeschooling, which maybe COVID has shown you, okay, this was not what I thought homeschooling was going to be like. Thank you so much for spending today with me, and I'll see you in the next video.